What was your approach for building a design strategy?
Okay, here is a feature that we want to do, but why are we doing it? Who is the user? In what context will they use it?
How do you identify which research method you have to use for a given problem?
It depends on what kind of time, what kind of budget you have for it.
What is your favorite design process and why?
Out of all these different possibilities that are there, how probable it is that users will do something?
How do you balance user needs, technology, design, business needs?
More than balance, it's about prioritization. What needs to be prioritized where, and what can be compromised?
How do you collaborate with other team members like product managers or software developers?
Many issues come up just because of communication, because we said something, they didn't understand it, they had a certain expectation in their head and we had something else.
How do you estimate the design effort for a large project?
Have a high level flow, estimate the number of screens. That gives you an estimate of how much time it would take, and then add a buffer to it.
What strategies help you to manage multiple design projects at once?
You can't do everything in a single day, so it's about prioritization and understanding who's more critical.
How do you deliver designs very fast with quality when you have a limited time?
The best way I've seen is to do whiteboarding. Get all the people in a room, just get onto a whiteboard and start drawing out the solution.
How do you stay up with the design trends?
I am myself not able to stay up with trends.
If you join as an entry-level UX designer, then you will be called as associate UX designer. Then if you got promoted, then you will be called as UX designer. And if you got promoted again, then you will be called as senior UX designer. And if you got promoted again, you will be called as lead UX designer. And if you got promoted again, then you will be called as principal UX designer. So for this podcast, I brought you a guest who started his journey as a user experience designer, and currently he is at a very high role. So the guest for today's podcast is Daipayan Bhattacharjee sir, where he is currently working as a senior principal UX designer at Oracle. So in this podcast, we will find out what are the roles and responsibilities of a senior principal UX designer. So if you are someone who joined as an entry-level UX designer, or if you are someone who want to pursue your career in UI UX design, make sure you watch this entire podcast. So without any further ado, let's get started. So hi Daipayan sir, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Joshua. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good too, sir. So, Daipayan sir, I personally know about you and your journey as well. So, for the people who don't know about you, so how can you introduce yourself to them?
Well, you've already told that I've been at Oracle for some time, so I just give a brief background how I got in. So I graduated studying mechanical engineering, and then I entered into the automotive industry where I was in the engineering of actually lamps, automotive lamps. So I was working there for some time and I was interacting a lot with the design team there. And that's where I got introduced to a lot of concepts around aesthetic styling. I was also working a lot on the shop floors. So understanding human ergonomics while, cars are getting built. And then gradually this led to a kind of journey where I started getting interested in the field of humans and systems interacting, and then I went in for my master's course with a lot of interaction with the designers there who guided me. I never knew how do you get into this discipline, but I got a lot of guidance from there. I completed my master's and then I got into the industry. So then I worked for some time at a company called Mindtree, and then I've been at Oracle. So it's been a while there. So yeah, that's been my journey.
Yeah, you have a very long journey, sir. Sir, if we look into like a typical UI UX designer, so what they do is they will design like a good user experiences for the people who are facing a little bit problem about user experience. So as you are a principal UX designer, so like what actually principal UX designers do?
Yeah, good question. So I think I can answer it so I think what you're trying to answer is like, how is a very senior role different from a sort of entry level kind of role, right? Like that's your question. So um, I think the way I would answer that is that, when you enter into the industry and you start working, at an entry level, I think there is a lot of support and guidance, and there will be someone like maybe your immediate senior designer or your boss or a manager, someone who is sort of telling you what to do, and helping you, like telling you what exactly is the expectation, what you need to deliver. There will be someone sort of reviewing your work and hand-holding you through things. Now, when you come to a senior level, I think it becomes less of that, right? So you don't have a lot of hand-holding, and it becomes your responsibility to kind of figure things out, identify opportunities, build influence, and understand the dynamics, and sort of find your way through, right? And sort of show that thought leadership. So that I would say is the key difference, like, from a senior role compared to sort of a very entry level role.
Okay. So, sir, now we will talk about your roles as well as your responsibilities as a senior principal UX designer. So, in this question only, you have said about you have to find the opportunities where people are facing problems. So, let us assume you find an opportunity and you have to develop a new feature or a new product. So, what was your approach for building a design strategy for developing a new product or a new feature?
So, I can contrast this with the previous answer that I gave, so that it'll help the audience to understand, right? So if you are, say, developing, or you're asked to design a new feature, usually, like, at least in my, like, when I was an entry level designer, what I would do is, okay, here is a set of requirements. Maybe it has come from a product manager or a business analyst or someone. And I would straight start getting into, okay, this is the requirement. Let me start drawing out the screens or the flow, right? And then I would draw out something, I would show it to people, I would get their feedback, and just start sort of, working on at the solution immediately. But once you go at a little senior level, I think what we start doing, or at least I have sort of matured that way, is that you start asking a more deeper questions, right? So, okay, here is a feature that we want to do, but okay, why are we doing it? Who is the user? In what context will they use it? What is the, what does success look like for them? What does failure look like for them? Walk me through a typical way they would use this feature. Walk me through a typical way they do it without this feature today, right? So there are a series of questions. You try and really understand that, okay, the feature is the solution, but what is the problem, or what is the actual desire, or the intent that you're going after? And then there are many angles to it. So there is the user angle, and what difficulties the user is facing. There's the business angle, that what is the business trying to do. There's the technical angle of, what are the constraints, what is the technology we are using to sort of build out this feature. So you really start dissecting the problem through so many different angles to then come and uh, get into the essence of like, okay, what is it that you want to really, what is it you really want to do, right? And in many times I've seen that sometimes, the feature is not even required, because as you start articulating this, you'll come to know that the problem is somewhere else and maybe you don't even need this feature. So that's how I think, my roles and the way I approach my work nowadays, that's the way it happens.
So, sir, in this question only, you have said that first you will start your design strategy with a drawing screens, and after that you will do some research about the user, like what is the problems facing by user, and at what environment they are using this feature or not. So, like you will do like a lot of research about the user. After that, you come up with the strategy. So if you look into like a various research methods, like we have primary research, secondary research, qualitative, quantitative, like we have tons of research methods. So how do you identify like which research method you have to use for a given problem?
I think user research is a domain in itself. There are, like you said, there are many methods of doing user research. I think the way you determine it that is determined by a lot of factors, right? So sometimes it is, you'll have to see what kind of budget you have, for example, right? Because no one's going to, especially at large organizations, I'm not been in like smaller organizations, but like in very large organizations, you have to actually recruit users to get their time and do user testing and anything, any kind of research thing that you want to do. So it depends on what kind of time, what kind of budget you have for it. That could be one factor. I think the availability of people, right? So sometimes you can do quick research with people within the company itself who are working on a particular feature. Sometimes you really need someone from outside, right? So that could be another factor. Time constraints as well. So sometimes you have the time and the luxury to go deep and do a big user research exercise. Sometimes you have a mandate to kind of get to market really fast, right? And you build something nimble and then do research. So those are the different factors which determine. Off the hand I can do, but I can sort of articulate, but there are others as well. But these would be like primarily the ways to.
So, sir, in this question only, at the starting of this answer, you have said that so there are dedicated people who will do the user research. So let us assume you have find a problem and the user research team has conducted the user research and they have given you the insights of the research. So like what is your process for translating the user insights into an actionable design decisions?
Good question. I think the results or the reports that user research teams give, it sort of brings everyone on the same page, right? So you kind of develop some kind of heuristics or some ballparks or principles of what users are expecting, right? And then as you do your designs and you come up with alternative solutions, I think the user research is something that will help you guide, right? Like out of options A, B, and C for design solutions, what works best. Sometimes it's like, multiple factors with which you might have conflicts. So the user research and, where is the user coming from? What is their context of use? Why are they doing something? Those are the ballparks by which you make a decision on, what option you should go for. I don't know if that really answers your question, but I don't think there is like a one-to-one sort of mapping, right? Like, okay, this is what I heard from user research, so this is how it will translate into the screen design, right? It's very hard. Sometimes there is, but it's very hard to translate that one-is-to-one. But overall, when you are iterating through solutions and you are talking to multiple stakeholders, I think the user research helps bring those decisions and provide those guardrails to reach a solution really fast.
So, sir, finally, you have conducted the user research, and now it is time for the design. So, as a principal UX designer, will you still do designs?
Yes, of course. So I don't know if you are aware, but usually in many organizations there is like the what they call the individual contributor path, right? And then there is the managerial track. So I am, as a principal designer, I'm very much on the IC path. So I do have to do a lot of work hands-on, and be a part of the craft. And I like being and doing the craft. So it's something I'm close to. So yeah, as a principal designer, senior principal designer, these roles, I think you do have to do a lot of work, hands-on, create designs, be a part of design reviews, work with design systems, all of this, right? So yeah, it's very much a part of my work.
Okay, sir. If you look into your journey, you have like a very quite long journey. So, if you look into design processes, also we have multiple design processes like design thinking, double diamond. So, there are multiple design processes. So, out of these processes, what is your favorite design process and why?
That's a nice question. I wouldn't say like I have a favorite one, right? And I know if you look up, I think nowadays there is a lot of theory. You Google something, double diamond, design thinking. I think there is a lot of information out there, and many times it can be confusing. But as I've realized in my work, and also through a lot of my mentors who have under whom I have worked, uh, all of this distills down to basically problem solving. And one thing that really as a personal, if you ask me, my favorite is, even my boss says, designing or thinking about possibilities versus probabilities, right? So when we are designing something, there can be 100 possible ways a user does something, right? And you can't end up designing for every possible thing the user will do, right? So instead we have to develop a very discerning eye, or a judgment of, out of all these different possibilities that are there, how probable it is that users will do something, or how probable it is that this kind of edge case will occur, right? And developing that difference in judgment of what is possible versus what is probable, that helps you to kind of come down, or really narrow down your solutions, and not get into everything, right? And just find out like what is the core, what is the essence of the problem, and design for that in a really good way. So I really don't stick to all these frameworks like double diamond and all of these things. But as I'm designing, I try to keep some of these things in mind, right? Possibilities versus probabilities. Then the other thing is about just having less. Less is more. I think that also you might have heard. So, having less stuff and just being very intentional about anything that you are putting, and having a very strong reason for it. So some of these 2-3 things I keep in my mind, and that I keep as my sort of go-to or favorites.
Sir, if we look into typical UI UX designer, so like as a principal UI UX designer, like you will allocate some work to the like a typical UX designer, and they will do like whatever the stuff you have said. But as a principal UX designer, like you have to look into the user needs, you have to design, and you have to satisfy the business needs as well. So like how do you balance all these things? Like how do you balance user needs, technology, how do you balance design, and how do you balance the business needs?
Um, Again, I think there's no sort of perfect balance, right? And we talk about how as a UX designer you have to balance all this, right? But what I've seen is more than balance, it's about prioritization, right? So where is it that what needs to be prioritized where, and what can be compromised, right? So supposing you have like a, I don't know, customer escalation where there is a sev1 kind of issue, and the customer is like really fired up, and something they want a solution immediately, right? And your production is in fire, right? So then you can't go and tell that, oh, the user wants this, right? And this is my perfect solution for it. Or I need like 2 months or 2 weeks of design time to go through iterations. That time you have to do like, there's the backfire situation. So you have to give the immediate solution there, right? So there the business need becomes more important. That has to be prioritized. Sometimes it is the technical need which needs to be prioritized, right? So if a page, you have designed a beautiful page, but if it's taking hours to load, because different databases have to talk to one another, then your design has to take a back seat, right? So the technical need has to be prioritized. And sometimes it is like really a user need, right? So then you have to push for the user need. So I look at it more in terms of prioritization. And the way you bring about balance is that, okay, while you are prioritizing, let's say the customer's need or the technical solution that is better, have a sort of map of when the user needs or the better design can come, right? And I'm sure like stakeholders, when they are working, even they understand this, right? So you do this now versus you have a plan for when the better solution in terms of design comes in later, and get that buy-in. So that is a part of the work, right? Like, okay, we are doing this now, but we need to get that buy-in of when the better solution will get implemented, right? So that's the way. I think it's less about balance, it's more about sort of this negotiation, prioritization, and compromise.
Yeah, well said, sir. Sir, in the previous questions, you have said that as a principal UX designer, you work with developing new features as well. So, how do you approach when you are designing a new feature or a new product, and and what makes a new feature successful from a UX perspective?
um, New feature, I think, like I said before, first of all, I think it begins with just sort of asking those questions, right? Like, who's the user? What are we trying to solve? Where is the context of use? And one important thing is also, what metrics are we kind of trying to change, right? So sometimes you do have very measurable metrics, sometimes you don't. So, but I think putting that hat of really understanding what is the metric that is going to change, so that you can then measure, right? Like before we had this as the metric and this was the value of it, and then you designed a solution and then this metric changed by whatever. So that I would say, so it begins with that process of like discovery and just trying to articulate what the problem is. And also I think many times, when you're working with these different teams like product and development and platform and all these teams, it's I've seen that many times they have their own version of the solution or the problem in their heads, right? And because we are in the design discipline, we think very visually and we kind of bring things visually to see, right? And that helps to clarify the problem. So even the process of articulating what the problem is, that happens also through design and solutions, right? So more solutions you give, then you'll see that there are different opinions coming, and then when people actually see a flow, then it starts to sort of turn the gears in their heads, and then you get to understanding what the problem is. Yeah. And then, like, at the end of it, when it's developed, I think it depends on what kind of enhancements we are getting when it's actually in the hands of the customer, what metrics it has pushed, are there bugs being filed, what are those kind of bugs, and there are those downstream kind of activities that happen to measure.
Sir, in the previous questions, you have said that you work with design systems as well. So, if we look into Oracle design system, because Oracle is a very old company, and I hope it has its own design systems. So, already people have made like various icons or colors or typography for the Oracle company. So, as a principal UX designer, what you do with the design systems, whether you create a new designs for the design system or you maintain the existing design systems?
Okay, that's a good question. I think so. First, I think we need to understand what are design systems for. So, a large scale organization like Oracle, we have multiple products, multiple product lines, and to bring about a cohesive user experience, you need a standard, right? You need a design system which kind of brings everything together. Otherwise, it's all going to be very broken. So Oracle has its own design system. It's called the Redwood design system. And I think it's one of the really visually aesthetic looking design systems out there, although there are others as well. But yeah, it brings about this sort of uniformity and consistency, and also I think a good visual language, not only just in screens, but even things like branding, marketing, every touch point that a customer has with Oracle has this element of Redwood in it, right? Now, what do I do? So I work. The design system is a separate team. There are a bunch of designers who sort of work on the design system itself. They enhance it, they maintain it, they do that. Then there are different sort of vertical teams. So I am in one of these different vertical teams who work using the outputs that the design system team provides, right? So components, page types, templates, all of this is what we use when we design. Now, we also work with them. So, there will be enhancements, and maybe that is coming at a certain release which is down the line, and we want to speed on things up. So we have ways in which, like, these vertically integrated design teams work with the central design team to kind of enhance it, right? So there are both these. So we also sort of use the outputs of the design system, and we also work with them in certain cases to enhance and maintain it.
Well said, sir. Sir, if we look into typical designing, so as the designers, we have to work with other teams, like we have to work with developers, and also we have to work with the product managers as well. So, like, how do you collaborate with other team members, like product managers or engineers or software developers? And what will you do if something wrongs goes between cross collaboration, and how do you resolve them?
Yeah, so I think there are multiple teams. Like you said, product development. We also work with the design system team, as I said. There is accessibility, user experience writing. So there is a lot of copy and writing work that happens. So there are multiple teams. The way you collaborate, I think, of course, there are tools, right? So, the Figmas and the Slack and all of these are tools to collaborate. But I think the main point is to keep communication very clear, right? So that people are on the same page of where you are, what the expectations are, and what needs to be delivered. So many times many issues come up just because of communication, because maybe we said something, they didn't understand it, they had a certain expectation in their head and we had something else. So all these multiple teams, and you work across multiple time zones. Also there are like cultural differences, right? So some people are very clear about boundaries, and some people are a bit like, okay, things can work. So as you work, I think these nuances you kind of understand, and maintaining a clear line of communication, being very explicit, and it's always better to even over communicate, I would say, like making sure through multiple channels, through multiple touch points, so that everyone understands what you're trying to do.
Sir, in the previous questions only, you have said that you will work with like other designers, and you have to give a specific timeline that a project should be done within that timeline. So, for example, we are starting some project. How do you estimate the design effort for a large project or a big project, or for a new project as well?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question, in fact, because I think the way you estimate can vary, right? I think it depends on like a couple of things. I mean, I'm just thinking about it, so it's so I would say, there is no usually what I kind of do is, once you've kind of understood what the problem is and what are the different use cases, you typically come up with a high level flow, right? And once you come up with a high level flow, you typically can estimate the number of screens or states at a high level, right? And that would be like a really sort of ballpark way of going about it, to say that, okay, there are these many screens, and this is the kind of flow, there are these many use cases, and that kind of gives you a sizing of it, right? But many times I think when you actually start designing, you will realize that things are changing, right? Sometimes the whole requirement changes. Sometimes some technical constraint comes and you realize that you can't go that way and you have to change something else, right? So I think it's a very ongoing process. So at the beginning of the design project, you might come up with a rough estimate, but then as you go, as the twists and turns happen, you'll have to keep revising this, right? And again, like I said, communication is key, and also I think keeping a buffer, right? So it's always good to expect the unexpected, to use a very cliche term, but many times it happens. So you have to always factor in a sort of buffer. And if you are, say, estimating that, okay, I have to do 10, this whole flow, it maybe has 10 steps, I'm going to take a week for it, commit to saying like I'm going to take 10 days or 15 days, so that 5 days is like a buffer that you have, because things can go wrong, right? So that's the way I would say. So have a high level flow, estimate the number of screens, that gives you an estimate of how much time it would take, and then add a buffer to it, and then keep sort of doing this process as the project goes ahead.
Sir, in our call, you have said that you are working on a multiple design projects. So these days, working on a single project takes a lot of time, and managing like a multiple projects will take like a lot of hard work. So, like, what strategies help you to manage multiple design projects at once?
I think it depends on, so as you work, I think you will sort of have that or develop a sense of how critical something is, and that depends on who are the sort of stakeholders involved, right? So um, you can kind of understand that you gain an understanding that who are the stakeholders, what is their objective, and what's their nature, right? So some stakeholders are really like, give me this today, or they're going to raise an alarm, right? And some of them are a bit more understanding, some of them, so it depends, like every individual is different, right? So as you're working on projects, as you're working through the years, I think you kind of develop that muscle, right? And you can then understand that I have these different projects. Where is it? What is going to sort of be a red flag? What is in the sort of okay state, and what is still safe, right? So I think you get a kind of picture of it, and then depending on who is the stakeholder, what is the criticality of the project, how much time it's going to take, it's about prioritization, right? So you kind of prioritize. The only way to, you can't do everything in a single day, so it's about prioritization and understanding who is more critical sort of, right? And then communicating, like I said, like you have to keep saying like, okay, this is on my plate, this is how much time it's going to take, and then I'm not going to take up the next thing, it'll take that much amount of time. And I think everyone is in that kind of boat, and they do understand, right? So as long as you keep communication clear, and you have this sort of prioritization map in your head, and understand the dynamics of who is the stakeholder, what is their nature like, you can balance things out and manage multiple projects. Yeah.
Perfect, sir. Sir, in the previous questions, you have said that sometimes you have to deliver the designs like very fast. So let us assume you have given a project, and you have to deliver the project very fast, because like we have like a few competitors. So if we delay the designs, they will become ahead of us. So at that moment, like we have to deliver our designs like a very speed. So like how do you deliver designs very fast with the quality when you have like a limited time, or when you have to deliver like a very fast?
Okay, that's a situation in which I've been many times. So I think there's no sort of formula to it, but I can tell you what I do and what I've seen it works is, number one, I think you have to identify who are the decision makers, right? So you have to identify like how will the project go ahead, right? So do you need approvals of, say, a VP of engineering? Do you need the approval of the VP of product? Who are the people basically, right? So if they need to approve, or their decision matters, so you have to identify who are those key decision makers, right? That is one. The second thing is, I think they will not be really involved in the day to day, so from their teams or whoever is sort of reporting to them, I think working with those people, and you have to learn to work in a very sort of frugal way, right? So the best way I've seen is to do whiteboarding. So get all the people in a room and just get onto a whiteboard and start drawing out the solution, right? So that I think reduces a lot of design cycles. Otherwise, like, you wait for some requirements document, you read it, you come up with something, then they will review it, then it goes back and forth. So if you want to minimize that, I think it's very important to like get people, make a rough thing, and then immediately sort of translate that into high fidelity mockups or a prototype, right? So that people can actually see, okay, this is what is happening. And then iterate really fast on that. So you'll get one version out, you'll have feedback, then you improve upon it. And simultaneously, I think involving everyone, right? So you're not doing this in a silo. So you have to involve engineering, you have to involve product, you have to involve whoever, and get those decisions made and flesh it out. And then have very, very regular check-ins with the decision makers. So you don't want to spend a lot of cycles and then go back to these decision makers and say that, hey, this is what we have made. And they say, no, this is not the way we want it, right? So have regular check-ins, even if it is like very rough, not really well made, but put it in front of them so that you get their feedback and their buy-in, and then course correct, right? And that I've seen is a way that really speeds up the design process and then helps you sort of build and ship fast. The other thing is also, I think, getting users feedback also. Sometimes we are so focused on just execution, we kind of miss out. But then if there is a quick way to validate with actual end users, maybe just going up, and these are all very like guerrilla kind of testing methods. Go and quickly test out something with a sample and get some validation, right? So that's a quick way of progressing through the design cycle.
Yeah, so like first we have to check with the decision makers, then we have to do whiteboarding, then we have to get the feedback from the real world users. So well said, sir. Sir, these days, if you look into the technology is changing very rapidly. Like it is getting advanced day by day. So like there are lot of trends coming on. Like this year's is the year of AI, because AI is doing multiple things. And by tomorrow or by next few years, we will get like some other technology like a quantum computing or some other technology. So the technology is changing very rapidly. So like how do you stay up with the design trends, or how do you stay up with the design updates? And do you think does AI will change the workflow of your designers?
Yeah, how do I stay up? Seriously, like you said, I'm myself not able to stay up with trends. It's just so fast. Like by the time you learn something, you're already, something new has come up. But I think it's an exciting time as well to see, all this new technology changes and the rapidity at which things are happening. It's all very new. I don't think there is like a very clear answer to it, except that, like something I at least do is try and incorporate maybe even 15 minutes a day or half an hour a week. Like you have to dedicate some time in your calendar to just sort of, learn and see what is out there and experiment. And I don't think we need to go like really deep into things, but just being aware, right? Like, okay, this tool, this is what it does, here is where it's heading. This other tool like image creation or vibe coding or whatever, right? Like there's something new every day. But I think having that sort of discipline to keep some slot in your week or in your day where you kind of park your other work and just focus on keeping up with some of this, that helps. And will it change the workflow of a designer? I think yes, definitely. AI is getting better day by day, and it will definitely change the way we do things, I think. But the way I think it'll change is it'll just make things a bit faster, right? So instead of spending a lot of time, say, building a prototype, you can maybe, prompt it and it goes and builds the thing, and it gives you, or it gives you more options, so you iterate through something faster. So maybe that's the way it would change your workflow. But I think the original thing of solving the problem and deciding which solution is better, I think some of this is still, at least, I don't know, AI may even do that. You don't know, but I think those kind of skills will still be needed. And yeah, it's something that we have to still keep working on.
Yeah. Sir, in the previous questions, you have said that you will mentor the juniors as well. Let us assume a junior has joined in Oracle. So, like, what qualities do you look in a junior designer, or what qualities a junior should learn, or what qualities a junior should master?
I think one is just having basic sort of proficiency in tools, right? So that, I think, is really important, at least at an entry level. So, tools nowadays aren't very hard to learn. So whatever is the new tool, having a lot of proficiency. So, with whatever is the latest updates and, features within the tool, how to get sort of, if you have to build a prototype, or if you have to build a flow out, how can you do it really fast with the tools you have, right? So I think proficiency in tools is really a important thing. Second thing is, I think, good communication. So being able to really say, where you are at, where do you need help, if something is blocking, what is blocking, and not sort of wait for someone to reach out to you and ask, right? Or not work under a lot of assumptions. If you're not clear about something, have the sort of communication to speak up and say that, this is not working, or this is where I need help, or whatever. And the third thing I would say is, and I think that's the more important one, is a lot of drive, right? Personal drive or self motivation, I think, because you may not know a lot of things when you enter and as a junior, but I think just having this mindset of, I'm going to figure it out, right? I think that is like really important. And I've seen many younger designers. I think that is, proficiency and stuff people do acquire, but that is sort of a differentiating factor, right? Where some people who are more driven, with very less hand holding, how much do you yourself go and try and, play around and figure things out and come up with something, right? So I think those are the three essential qualities.
Okay. So, you have given like a very good advice to the upcoming designers. So, Daipayan sir, thank you so much. You have given like a plenty of information, and you have given like your valuable time for me as well as for my audience. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much, Joshua. This is great work, and wishing you all the best.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So this is all about Daipayan sir's journey, and if you are someone who are planning to promote yourself as a UX designer, I hope this podcast has helped you. So if you think you got some new information through this podcast, make sure you hit the like button, and please share this podcast with the fellow designers. And also, if you want to be notified when I upload new videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications just by hitting that bell icon. So this is your Joshua Kumlekar signing off.